Hey guys, what's going on? Tribe Chiefs. Hope you guys are doing well, and thanks for tuning in for another tutorial right here, chilling with me in my studio as we dissect and go through some of the tracks that I made for my album that's going to be coming out next year. Earlier this month, I dropped a link for you guys to listen to a track that's coming out on my album called "Do That," and it's a track that I worked on, and I'm sure you guys have heard me say this a couple of times. You know, one of my favorite style of music has always been the minimal stuff, whether it's minimal tribal, minimal techno, minimal deep tech, minimal house. I'm all about simplicity, and as I've stated in my previous tutorials, I love the simplicity of minimal stuff. Now, a lot of people may think minimal music is very simple to make. It's actually the hardest music to make, and here's why. You've got about 5 to 10, well, let's say 5 to 8 minutes to make a track that is interesting using only minimal elements. That's really tough to do. Considering that you only have a couple of things to work with, and you got to create a track where it keeps things interesting throughout, from 1 to 5 minutes or 1 to 8 minutes or whatever. So minimal, whether it's minimal tech house, minimal techno, it's very difficult to create these tracks, and you got to really figure out a way where you can make it, keep it interesting but keep it stripped down and minimal. And that's why I love minimal stuff, because it gets you kind of thinking in a different way. It's not about the big build-ups, big breakdown, drum rolls, blah blah blah, bells and whistles. It's keeping it very simple, minimal, but keep it chugging and interesting. So that brings me to the track right here that I've made called "Do That." It's kind of my one of my favorite style, which is the deep tech minimal stuff. It's all kind of drive behind the bass line that carries the groove, carries the tracks, and kind of just locks you in and just keeps you grooving. Minimal changes happening, very subtle, but it keeps the track percolating and interesting. So with that in mind, we're gonna dive into this track from my album called "Do That," and I'm gonna kind of break it down and dissect little elements that I've used. And if you're a big fan of sample packs and using samples, this is the tutorial for you, because this track right here is super old school, done in an old school mentality, which is I use a lot of sample bits, kind of chopped up some things as well, which I will show you pretty soon. And yeah, we'll go from there. So we'll break it down track by track, how things were made, the automation I used, and how I incorporated the different things to keep the track interesting while it stays minimal. So let's dive right into it. I'm going to turn this real quickly right over here to the track. Perfecto. I think you can see everything from here. Yes. So anyway, so here's the meat and potatoes. This is the entire track. This part down here is the stuff that I was playing with that didn't actually make it to the final cut. So I always have like a section here where I keep it because I might go back to it. It's things that I've messed around with and played, elements, sounds, samples, vocals, drum kits, or loops. That's all the stuff here. As you can tell, they're all muted. So I didn't end up using some of it, but some of it did get incorporated right into here. And those are some of the elements that I used to make the track. So let's just start really quickly right here. We'll start with the kick and the bass. So this is what the tracks are like. If you heard it earlier this month, then you'll know what track I'm gonna go into. So here we go. Let's see it. So here you get to hear just a basic kick. It's a loop kick. Alright. Then I added this little funky thing to it. This sound, which I'll turn up so you can hear. Let me widen this up so you can see what's going on. Alright. So this thing is pretty cool. If you hear this thing, let me turn it up. You see it's kind of modulating, a little shifting, this thing right here. So what I'm doing is I pretty much automated the EQ, which is kind of fun to do. Let me show you the EQ, what's going on here. See, the EQ is moving a little bit. Actually, there's a better section of this for me to show you. Let me see here. Let me show you here. See, look at that. So you kind of get the hint. So what I did is I took this loop and I'm just playing around, opening and closing the low cut on the filter over here, and that's all I'm doing is just automating it, going up and down. Let me go back here. I'll give you a better example. Look at that. That's all I'm doing right here. You can see the automation. See of it? So as I've said in my previous tutorials, a lot of these elements, I actually like to keep it done with the hand so it doesn't look too cookie cutter. Some people would like to draw this out with the pencil and it'll be like big, 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 big. I like to keep it the way I've done it with my hands, so it gives it that more natural feel. On some things I prefer to go in and draw stuff in, especially if there's a dropout or if I need to bypass something. I'm not going to do it by hand, obviously. But things like that where it's modulating and it's organic sounding, it's best to let your hand creativity and work with your ear instead of your eyes. So stuff like this is better done hearing than seeing. And that's why you get this kind of nice flow again. So that's pretty much percolates throughout the entire track at the bottom, almost like an undertow, kind of like a just kind of keeps the track kind of chugging along. Let me bring it down. I'm gonna let you see what it sounds like with it being on. Where is it? Let's see here. Let's see here. I'm gonna turn it up so you can hear more. So you kind of, hopefully you kind of get the hint there. So it's another one of my tricks that I do a lot in my production is fuck around with the EQ, man. The more you can mess around with it, play with the different frequencies and just automate it, it really gives the track it's like it's alive, it's a living organism. That gives it that whole just modulates, just moves with the track. So and without it, it's pretty boring. I just muted it. Now I'll turn it back on. I'll turn it back on, see what it sounds like. Alright, so that's that. Now I'm sure you're wondering, well, what's the other stuff that's going on right here in this particular loop that's happening? Well, let's look right into it. Now that you heard that piece right here. So I'm going to mute that, let you hear. Now there's a sound here that I called the hook. The reason it's the hook is just like this really kind of glassy percussion-y kind of sound that also builds with the track. Let me turn on the automation here so I can show you. As you can see that orange line going up, all it does, it builds with the track, then drops again, then builds back, goes back up. That's pretty much, I called it the hook because it actually, it chugs, it moves along with this element that I just let you hear earlier, where it's called it's called Choppy Vox, again, which is a vocal that I just chopped up and mangled and threw it in here. Anyway, so here's the hook. This is what I'm calling the hook. Let me turn it up again. Yeah, so it's nothing but like a kind of metallic-y kind of sounding percussion, but it sounds really cool while it builds like this. This is. It just gets louder and louder and just lets the track kind of just boom come together. Now again, if you heard this track when I sent it to you earlier this week, you can see how this all kind of comes together. This is a good way of kind of seeing what happened behind the scene and how this track came about. So that I call the hook and the way it builds. So again, it's just a metallic percussion that I kind of put with the track. that I think it fits really well, and it just keeps the track chugging along. So it goes like this, you know. Then you got the kick, obviously, that we spoke about earlier. And then right here, this is right here. It's just basically a kit. I'm gonna hit my keyboard here. It's just a bunch of elements that I find and I just kind of put together like. So I end up finding this kit and it works together. So that's that here. So you can hear it. Oh. Let me get this so you guys can see it at least. Yeah. So it's just me playing, hitting a couple of notes on the keyboard to get this little percussion element going, which gives this a bit of a solid groove. And this is how it works with the track. I'm sure you hear it. So that's that. So now, as you can see, the track kind of comes together. We've got our loops. We've got the bass, which is right here. It's just a dope loop that I found from a sample pack. So it's a really nice, clean bass line that I just kind of EQ'd just a little bit, just added a little bit of EQ on it, and just left it as is. Then next we have the hook that I let you hear earlier. Then we've got that choppy thing that I let you hear earlier that was automated right here. Then the drum loop. And that last thing, that percussion thing that I showed you earlier. So as you can see, the track is building, and the hook sound right here, it's building with the track. And as the track builds, all the other elements will start slowly coming in, like the drum loop right here. See? Building. The filter's building. Then this drops right here. As you see, it's a slow build. This is modulating. This is building. You've got all the kit element that I have here with just a couple of pop and a clap here. Just things kind of popping in, happening, but keeping it super minimal and just having it chug along. Just keep riding. And as we get closer over here to the drop down. And this is where, as you can see, it bypasses the kick, the bass line and the kick right here. The kick is taken out, kick's taken out, loop's taken out. Then the bass line just drops. I bypass it with a filter. By the way, if you guys are wondering, this is my favorite go-to filter. You cannot go wrong with this filter. It just opens up. Come on, buddy. This. Right here, the TBK. It's a super dope filter. It comes in a pack. It's super cheap, not expensive at all. It's made by Sinolculus, and yes, it's TBK filter. I can put a link for you guys, or give you more information about the other filters I use and whatnot. Actually, I might do another tutorial just to show you some of my go-to plugins. If you guys are interested in that, I can definitely do a tutorial just going over some of my favorite go-to plugins. I have some ones that I use religiously on every track, and this filter is one of them. I love this filter. So been using this one for years, and it's one of these things. It's like a turntable for me. I'll never look past it. So yeah, so that's the filter being used here. Like when I do drops, it's actually being used right here too at the main hook filter. The hook where I said it's the hook that builds up right here. That's also using the same filter. So anyway, let's see here. So let's go. So we're at the breakdown here. Now the breakdown is just a basic breakdown. What's gonna happen next? Let me turn all these on so you can hear the whole track. Next, I introduce, after the first breakdown, which happens at about 2.5 minutes. The first breakdown comes in a new element. I introduce a new element, which is just as a sound effect. Why isn't these on? Oh, here we go. Let me see, make sure everything's okay. Let me just do this. All right, so here's the breakdown. This is the breakdown, as you can see. All it is just everything drops, and I add this another loop that's super, just again undertowing, just percolating, just a little, nothing too crazy. Let me let you hear it. You hear it? It's so simple, and it's just to kind of carry the track along, so it's not too super quiet at the breakdown. I'll turn it up a little bit more so you can hear. So that's during the breakdown. Here's what it sounds like with the breakdown. Anyway, so that's a breakdown, and let's see what happens right after a breakdown. It wastes no time, and it goes right back into the beat, to the main meat and potatoes of the track. But I introduce a new element, which is just a little sound of a person, and adding some delays to it. So check this out. So this is the first breakdown. It's a minor breakdown. It's not the main breakdown. We still have a bigger breakdown coming up. So let's see here. Yes, sir. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I have everything to show you guys here. Yes. All right, so here we go. So that's the breakdown. And as soon as the breakdown drops, let me close this. As soon as the breakdown ends right here, this is the new element that's going to be introduced right here in the track, which is it's a little voice that I've just, again, chopped up, and says like, do that. It sounds like he's saying do that, and that's why, that's the name. That's where the name came from, do that, because that's what it sounds like he's saying. All right, so let's start here from the beginning before it goes right into, so you hear it. That's a little effect sound. So yeah, so that carries on for a little bit. Then we get to the main breakdown right here, which is, this one's also a bit minimal, and I keep it kind of fun and interesting. So what I try to do here, the thing that I called the hook from what you heard earlier, which was building up this thing right here, I added a bit of, let me open this so you can see the modulation frequency. Here we go. Okay, so on Logic, there's this thing called modulation delay, or mod delay. It's really fun to use in a breakdown because it just adds modulations to your delay. and it's really great to use during a build, either a breakdown or build up. As you can see here, I used it during a breakdown. I'm sorry, during a build up. So here the track breaks down, and as it builds right here, let me show you. Let me put this outline so you can see what I'm talking about. So the track breaks down right here, and as it builds, this hook modulates, starts having a modulation delay until the whole track comes back in. Then the modulation delay gets cut off. So I'm gonna let you hear just that part, so that way you can understand what I'm talking about. While that delay is modulating, I'm also playing with that filter that I showed you earlier, the TPK, and bringing that sound up. This is basically, it's the same sound. I'm just like layering it. So this is the same thing. I'm just like opening up the different automation that's on it right now. There's 3 automation. Anyway, so let's see here, bypass. Okay, we don't need that right now. So just to focus on these 2 right here. So the modulation delay, you know, it happens until the track drops. So is the TPK filter. All comes together to an end right here where the track drops. So I'm going to let you hear the modulation bit first with the filter effect, so you can hear what I'm talking about. Let's see here as it comes in right here. Okay, so that's gonna happen during a breakdown. Modulation delay while the filter opens up. So now here's what it sounds like for the breakdown with everything in. Let's see here. With a little ride as well. Boom, boom, boom. As you can tell here, I just changed it up just a little bit. Instead of it being repetitive, do that, do that, do that. I just took one out and just did it oppositely. So I kind of deleted one, so it doesn't sound too repetitive. So that's another way to kind of play around with minimal tracks, is just change it up just a little bit, and it'll create that element of surprise, so people aren't being a bit more too predictable when they're dancing to it. But you don't want to be too changing it up too much, then it doesn't obviously become that kind of deep grooving minimal kind of stuff. Also, one thing I like to point out, if you ever want to put a good filler between transitions and whatnot, a good ride is always the way to go. It works great. It does wonders for the track. When I mean a ride, it's this kind of stuff. This is a great way just to if you want to make a clearance of some empty space, and you just want to get the track to kind of pick up momentum, just drop a ride in there and it'll sound great. Like for example, this is. Back at the hook. There, and the hook ends with a little bit more modulation, delay modulation, and the filter takes it out. See? that's with the whole track. It sounds like this. Boom. So there you have it. That's Do That That coming out on my Morph album. And really excited about this track, guys. It's brings me back to my roots, my minimal roots, the deep techno, deep tech house that I've always loved. And I feel like it's a great track to play, whether it's in the after hours, the back bar. It's made for those back dark rooms type of vibe. You know, just a good housey vibe. I think it's a well-rounded track. It could work anywhere, even in a big room as well, a dark big room with just freaking smoke machine and a strobe light, like old school. Anyway, so I hope you guys liked it. I am gonna shoot a tutorial about how to mess around, how to take your sample packs to the next level. If you're like me and you like downloading sample packs, playing with them, matching up, well, I'm going to show you some secrets on how much more you can do with a sample pack. You don't just dump them in here and try to find samples to add to track, almost kind of like creating a puzzle or whatever, like freaking Tetris. You can do a lot more with sample packs, and you can get super creative with them, and you can create things that nobody ever thought you can do with a sample pack, taking it way out of what it was meant to be. So that's going to be one of my next tutorial. I'm also going to shoot another tutorial showing you my favorite plugins and what I use. I'm also going to shoot another tutorial showing you how you can manipulate some of these loops, meaning to change it up as the track goes. That sometimes the things, it doesn't have to be like, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. You can shift it, change it around to add that element of surprise like we spoke about earlier, but a bit more element of a surprise, and makes the track interesting so it doesn't sound like it's always the same loop over and over again. So that's going to be another tutorial I'm going to shoot. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I love your comments. I love your feedback. I'm doing the best I can with to showing you what I have, and I hope you guys are liking it. I'm enjoying sharing all my secrets and tips with you, and I hope you guys are getting something out of it. And like I said from the beginning, we are here to learn from each other. So if you have any questions, any comments, if you want me to break something down even further for you, feel free to hit me up, send me a message, comment underneath this video, and I will dive in more into it. And if you need to, like, more information 101, I'm down for that as well. I can give you anything you need to know, and how to better yourself as a producer, how to kind of think outside the box, how to take the box and just mangle it and do your own thing with it. It's all about being unique and creative with your production. You can keep it simple, but still be unique, and be yourself. So hopefully these tips are helping. Thank you again. I don't want to make these videos too long, and I appreciate your support for helping me keep the music going. Thank you, everything, guys. Peace, love.